I wasn't supposed to notice her like that. Not while holding a wrench, grease on my hands, sunlight catching in her hair, as she leaned against the hood of her silver sedan, but I did. And in that single moment, the day shifted from ordinary to something that still feels like it hasn't ended. She'd pulled into the shop just before closing, the kind of entrance that carried both apology and quiet authority. A soft click of heels on concrete, the faint scent of jasmine trailing behind her. Her voice low, calm, careful, asked if someone could take a look at the strange noise coming from under her car. I told her I'd check, though my shift was already over. I don't know if it was her tone, or the way her eyes lingered a second longer than polite. Maybe both. Either way, I stayed. As I bent to inspect the engine, she waited nearby, not pacing, not on her phone, just watching. The kind of stillness that makes you aware of every sound, the click of a tool, the hum of distant traffic, the uneven rhythm of two people trying not to seem aware of each other. When I glanced up, she met my gaze. Steady. Then, a small smile, like she'd caught herself thinking something she shouldn't. I smiled back before I could stop myself. Her name was Yunya, I learned a few minutes later. 46, though she said it like it didn't quite matter. It didn't. Her age was part of her, like the small crease near her lip when she spoke, or the way her confidence felt effortless, worn in like her favorite scarf. The engine problem was minor. The problem between us was not. I told her the noise came from a loose belt, easy fix. She stepped closer to see, her perfume soft and warm, wrapping around the cold air of the shop. She brushed a stray lock of hair behind her ear, and the movement made the fluorescent lights above flicker against her wristwatch. I noticed everything, the tremor in her hand when she leaned in, the sound of her breath as she asked, almost in a whisper, "How long will it take?" 10 minutes, I said. My voice didn't sound like mine. Then I'll wait. Something about the way she said it, quiet, certain, made time stretch. She stood close enough that when I reached for a rag, her sleeve brushed against mine. Just a second, barely anything. But I felt it. And so did she. Her body stilled, as though she didn't expect contact, but didn't want to move away either. I finished the job too quickly. I almost hated to tell her it was done. There, I said softly, straightening up. Good as new. Her eyes followed the motion, my hands, my face, the faint oil mark on my shirt. Her lips parted, as if to say something, then hesitated. The silence between us thickened, like warm air before rain. She reached for her purse, fingers brushing mine again, when I passed her the keys. No one spoke. Her hand lingered a second too long, or maybe mine did. Thank you, she said, voice slightly lower now. For the car? I asked. For staying, she replied. And just as the air grew too charged to ignore, the garage door rattled open behind us. The noise startled her, snapping the moment in half. My co-worker's voice echoed from the doorway, casual and loud. Hey man, you heading out or what? Yunya stepped back quickly, her composure returning like a curtain closing. She smiled, polite, practiced, distant again, but her eyes flickered once more before she turned away. I watched her leave, her taillights glowing red against the fading dusk. And for the first time in years, I didn't want the day to end. It had been 3 days since I fixed her car, but her voice still echoed in my head, for staying. That shouldn't have meant anything. But somehow, it did. She came back on a Thursday afternoon. Said she wanted to check if the noise was really gone. It wasn't, not from her car, at least. The shop was quieter than before, just the hum of the ceiling fan and the faint clink of tools. When she stepped inside, every sound seemed to shrink. She wore a pale blue blouse this time, sleeves rolled up, hair loosely tied back. She looked softer. Tired, maybe. Busy, she asked. Not really, I lied, wiping my hands on a rag. Her eyes drifted to the grease on my palms, then back to my face. You always stay late. Sometimes, I said. It's easier than going home. Her gaze paused, curious but gentle. You live alone? I nodded. She didn't say anything, but I saw the recognition in her expression, that quiet kind of loneliness you only notice when someone else carries it too. She leaned against the counter, close enough that I could smell the faint trace of coffee and something floral beneath it. I used to hate being alone, she murmured. Now I just got used to it. Her words lingered longer than they should have. I wanted to ask why, what had changed, what she'd lost, but something about her posture told me not to. She looked composed, but her fingers kept tracing the edge of the counter, restless, almost trembling. I was married, she said finally, unprompted. It ended quietly. No fights. Just silence that wouldn't stop growing. I didn't know what to say, so I just listened. Sometimes silence felt safer than comfort. She smiled, small, self-conscious. I'm sorry, that's not your problem. It's okay, I said. I get it. Maybe it was the honesty in my voice, or maybe she just wanted to believe someone could understand. But when she looked up at me, something softened between us. Your hands, she said suddenly, noticing a small cut near my thumb. Before I could respond, she reached out, thumb grazing the edge of my skin. The touch was light, almost nothing, but it sent a pulse through my chest. You should wear gloves, she whispered. I couldn't breathe for a second. Yeah? I should. She didn't move her hand. Neither did I. The space between us grew smaller, quiet, charged, a breath away from something neither of us was ready to name. Then she blinked, stepped back, cleared her throat. I should go. But she didn't. Not immediately. She lingered near the door, looking down, as if debating something invisible. Maybe I'll bring the car in next week, she said softly. Just, in case. Her words were casual. Her eyes weren't. And when she left, the air around me still carried her warmth, like her touch hadn't quite let go. It was raining when she came again. Hard enough that the sound against the tin roof drowned out everything else, except the way my heart picked up when I saw her standing there, clutching a soaked umbrella like she wasn't sure why she'd come at all. I didn't plan to drive, she said, shaking her head, water dripping from her hair. The rain caught me halfway. I handed her a towel before I could think about it. Our fingers brushed, brief, electric. She hesitated, then took it, laughing softly. You're going to think I'm making up excuses to come here. I didn't answer, because I had thought that. And I didn't want to be right. The rain outside thickened, the kind that made leaving impossible. She stood near the small heater in the corner, steam rising from her sleeves as she rubbed her arms. Her blouse clung to her shoulders, damp, tracing the soft lines I pretended not to notice. You can wait till it slows, I said, trying to sound casual. I should, she murmured, though her tone made it sound more like a question. I busied myself with a toolbox I didn't need to open. Every sound, the click of a latch, the hum of the heater, her quiet breathing, felt too loud. When I turned back, she was watching me again. Not the polite kind of watching, the kind that feels like memory being made. She smiled faintly. You're careful when you talk. Like you're afraid to say too much. Maybe, I said. Or maybe I'm afraid you'll hear what I actually mean. Her lips parted slightly, but she didn't speak. The silence filled with everything we weren't saying. A flash of lightning lit the room, and for a second, we were just two outlines, close enough that I could see the tiny pulse at her throat. She took one small step closer, the smell of rain and perfume merging in the air. You're too young to, she began, then stopped. To what? I asked quietly. To look at me like that. Her voice trembled, not from fear, from the effort of holding something back. I could feel the pull between us, heavy, magnetic. My hand moved before my thoughts caught up, fingers brushing a strand of hair from her face. She didn't move away. Unia, I started. But before I could finish, her phone buzzed sharply on the counter. The sound snapped the moment clean in half. She froze, glanced at the screen, then turned it face down without answering. Her breath came uneven now. I should stay, I said before I could stop myself. She didn't look at me, but her hand reached for mine, half a second, barely a touch. Just skin against skin, trembling and real. Then she pulled back, eyes bright with something she didn't dare name. The rain outside softened, but neither of us moved. And when she finally spoke, her voice was barely a whisper. This is going to get complicated, isn't it? I swallowed hard, my pulse still caught in that almost touch. It already is. The rain had stopped by morning, but it felt like it hadn't. Everything between us still hung heavy and wet, unsaid words, half-touches, things we pretended to ignore. She came by that evening again. No umbrella this time. Just her, hair loose, eyes darker than usual, a quiet edge to her voice when she asked, "You free?" I nodded before she finished. I didn't even ask why. We didn't go to the shop. She parked behind it instead, the world outside dim and orange from the street lights. Inside the car, the air was warm from the heater, her perfume filling every inch. The silence between us wasn't awkward anymore, it was dangerous. I can't keep doing this, she said suddenly, looking straight ahead. Doing what? Coming here. Wanting to. It's ridiculous. Her voice was too steady to be calm. You're so young. You don't understand what this looks like. I swallowed. Maybe I don't care what it looks like. She turned to me then, eyes flashing. That's exactly why I have to. Her words hit, but so did the way she said them, not angry, but scared. I saw her hand tremble slightly against the steering wheel. She wasn't trying to protect her reputation. She was trying to protect me. Unia, I said, my voice low. You think I don't know what I'm doing? She exhaled, a small, bitter laugh. You think this is simple? That it's just about wanting? Her tone made something inside me tighten. Then what is it? She didn't answer. Her eyes flicked to my hand resting near hers on the console. The distance between us was smaller than a breath. The heater clicked off, leaving the faint sound of rain dripping from the roof. I could hear her breathing, slow, shallow, deliberate. I keep telling myself it's just kindness, she whispered. That I come here because you listen. Because you remind me what it feels like to be seen. Her voice cracked. But it's not just that, is it? I didn't move, I couldn't. I just watched her eyes flick down to my mouth, then back up again, fast, guilty. I shouldn't, she murmured, but the rest disappeared when my hand lifted to her face. I brushed a strand of hair behind her ear, fingertips grazing her skin. Her breath caught, one soft, broken sound. Don't, she said, but her body leaned closer anyway. Tell me to stop, I whispered. She didn't. The world outside faded. The only thing left was her, the heat of her shoulder against mine, the scent of her perfume, the way her lips parted like she might finally let go of every reason she'd built to resist me. Then, a sudden light swept across the windshield. Headlights. A car pulling in. She froze. Her hand was still on my wrist. My pulse jumped under her fingers. Someone's here, she breathed. The moment shattered, but neither of us moved away. Unia, I whispered again, so quietly she almost didn't hear it. Her eyes closed, and for one suspended heartbeat, it felt like she was about to say yes. The headlights that cut across us that night belonged to my coworker, June. He didn't see much, just Junior in her car, me standing too close beside it, but it was enough. The next morning, the shop felt different. He grinned when I walked in, tossed me a wrench, and said under his breath, "Didn't know you fixed more than cars, man." I tried to laugh it off, but my stomach dropped. Word spreads fast in small places. When Junior arrived later that day, her expression told me she already knew. She didn't smile this time. Just stood by her car, eyes flicking toward the windows like someone might be watching. "Who saw us?" she asked quietly. I hesitated. That was enough of an answer. Her shoulders stiffened. "I told you this would happen. You didn't do anything wrong." "We didn't do anything," she said sharply, but her voice faltered halfway through. The truth hung between us, that it wasn't what we'd done, but what we almost did. She turned away, rubbing her arm, trying to steady herself. The sun caught her wrist, her skin pale against the dark sleeve. I wanted to reach out, to tell her it didn't matter, but she was already pulling back. "I can't have people talking," she murmured. "I work with some of them. They're wives. You don't understand." "I understand enough." My voice came out harder than I meant. She looked up at me, startled, like she hadn't expected defiance, only patience. "You think this is just gossip?" I said. "You think that's what I care about?" Her lips parted, eyes wide. "Then what do you care about?" I took one step closer. Close enough to see the pulse at her throat, the faint tremor in her jaw. "You," I said simply. She froze. Not because she didn't believe it, but because she did. For a moment, neither of us breathed. Then she shook her head, whispering, "Don't say that." I already did. She backed up a step, bumping lightly into the car behind her. The sound was small, sharp. She didn't move away again. "You don't know me," she said quietly, but her hands betrayed her, fingers tightening around the edge of the door, knuckles pale. "You don't know what I've done. Or who I still." She stopped herself, eyes darting away. That hesitation, that still, landed like a blow. "Who you still what?" I asked softly. Her throat worked, but no sound came. She closed her eyes, as if bracing against something inevitable. When she opened them again, they were glassy, fierce. "You weren't supposed to matter." That was the truth, the one she'd been trying to hide. I reached for her then, slow, uncertain. She didn't move, until my hand almost touched hers. Then she whispered, trembling, "If you don't stop, I won't." Her words hit like thunder in the quiet. And in that fragile second, everything that had been restraint began to tilt toward surrender, night again. The kind that makes everything quieter, streets, thoughts, reasons. Junior had texted only 2 words, "Can we talk?" I found her waiting by the same car, parked behind the closed shop. She looked different tonight, not careful, not guarded. Just tired, like she'd been fighting something she could no longer keep buried. I walked closer, heart beating too hard for how slow my steps were. "You shouldn't have come," she said softly. "Then why ask me to?" She didn't answer. Her eyes flicked to the door of the shop, locked, silent. Then back to me. "Because I couldn't stop thinking about you." The words hit harder than I expected. She turned away, as if she regretted saying them. I kept trying to convince myself it was a phase, a kindness I mistook for something else. But every time I see you, it feels like I'm starting over. I stepped closer, slow, careful. "Then don't start over. Just start." She looked up, startled, and for the first time, she didn't look older. She just looked human, scared, wanting, uncertain. "You think this ends well," she whispered. "I don't care how it ends. I just don't want to keep pretending it didn't start." The silence after that was thick, trembling. She exhaled, shaky, her shoulders rising as if she might cry, but didn't. People will talk, she said. Let them. You'll regret it someday. Maybe, I said. But not tonight. She laughed then, quiet, hopeless, beautiful. The sound cracked something open in both of us. When I reached for her, she didn't pull away. My hand found the side of her face, thumb brushing her cheek. Her skin was warm, softer than I remembered. You shouldn't, she said again, but her voice had no conviction left in it. I know, I whispered. Her breath caught. And for a long, impossible second, the world narrowed to the space between our mouths, the inch of air that held every question, every fear. She leaned in first. Not much, just enough for her forehead to rest against mine. I've spent years holding everything together, she murmured. My work, my reputation, my life. You make it all feel like it could come undone. Maybe that's not a bad thing. She let out a slow, uneven breath, her lips grazing the edge of my jaw as she whispered, You don't know what you're asking. I think I do. Her hand rose, trembling, and pressed lightly against my chest, not to push me away, but to feel the proof of what we both already knew. Then she closed her eyes. For a heartbeat, nothing moved. Just breath, warmth, and the faint hum of a street light somewhere beyond the glass. When she finally spoke, her voice was a whisper against my skin, the softest surrender I'd ever heard. Then don't stop this time. And just like that, the distance between us was gone. The next morning, sunlight slipped through the half-open blinds, soft and forgiving. It painted the shop in gold, catching dust motes mid-air like tiny memories that refused to settle. Unia stood by the window, hair loose around her shoulders, her scarf draped over one arm. She looked lighter somehow, like someone who had finally stopped holding her breath. Neither of us spoke for a while. The quiet wasn't awkward anymore. It was full, heavy with everything we'd said, and everything we no longer needed to. You're quiet today, I said eventually. She smiled faintly, turning toward me. I'm just trying to remember what this feels like, before it fades. It doesn't have to fade. Her eyes softened. Everything fades. But some things stay long enough to change you first. I crossed the space between us, slow, deliberate. She didn't move back. My fingers brushed the sleeve of her coat, finding her hand beneath it. She didn't pull away this time, just intertwined her fingers with mine, like it was the most natural thing in the world. For a moment, neither of us looked up. Our hands said more than our voices ever could, the hesitations, the guilt, the fragile relief of being seen and still chosen. You know what people will say, she whispered. I nodded. Let them talk. They weren't there when you smiled like that. That made her laugh, a small, breathy sound that melted the last bit of tension still clinging to her shoulders. She reached up, resting her palm against my cheek, thumb tracing the faint oil stain near my jaw. You're too young to talk like that, she said softly. Maybe, I said. Or maybe I just learned from you. Her eyes flickered, the mix of pride and ache only someone who's lived long enough to know what love can cost. Then she leaned forward, pressing her forehead against mine. No rush. No drama. Just stillness, warmth, and the quiet hum of two people who finally stopped pretending not to care. I was afraid of what this meant, she admitted. But it's simpler than I thought. What is it? She smiled against my skin. It's just us. For as long as it's real. I nodded, understanding. Love didn't need promises, just the courage to exist in the present tense. Outside, the day had begun to brighten. Somewhere, a car door slammed, and the world continued, unaware, unchanged. But inside that little corner of the world, she leaned into my chest, her hands resting over mine, and everything finally felt still. She looked up, eyes glinting in the light. You fixed more than my car, you know. Yeah, I said quietly. Guess I did. The moment held, her head on my shoulder, the scent of jasmine and engine oil mingling like something that shouldn't fit, but somehow did. For once, it didn't matter what came next. Did you enjoy the story? What kind of stories would you like to hear next?